I'm sure you'll all remember me with my glasses on. I've worn them all my life, but not many people know that I was never short-sighted. I actually started wearing them when I was a child after losing the sight in one eye in an accident at home. I was the oldest of 4 brothers, so if it had not been for that incident, it is quite possible that I would have stayed at home to look after my parents. In 1915, Europe was immersed in the First World War. Few imagined that it would be the first in a series of major conflicts that would mark the development of several generations, including mine. Luckily, humans are capable not only of doing the worst, but also the best. They were times when many people gave the best of their life and their work. I was born on the 22nd of April of that year in Barinaga, Marquina. My father, José Luis Arizmendi Arrieta, was a good-natured countryman. My mother, Tomasa Madariaga, was an austere and hard-working woman, and our home was the Iturbe farmhouse. My childhood in this environment was a happy one. I went to school where I first felt that my future lay far away from the farmhouse. There I learnt important things: the value of work, family, community, the pleasure an austere life can give, but in particular a love of the land and my roots made a decisive mark on me. They were somehow the substrata where, without knowing it, the seed of my life had been planted. Aged just 11, I joined the minor seminary to study Latin, and I liked it. So at the age of 15, I moved up to the major seminary, where I had the good fortune to have very great teachers who broadened my horizons. By then, I was already aware of the problems of industrial cities through the Eibar branch of my family. It was over those years that my interest in social affairs arose. In 1936, when I was about to start the second year of theology, war crossed my path for the second time. After the uprising, I joined the Basque government militia, where I was assigned to the press service. I have to confess that when Bilbao fell, I was afraid and decided to flee to France, but I turned back in Irún, and that cost me a jail sentence. Luckily, I was released and I could continue studying. I remember those years well because I experienced many things that really tested me. After the war in Spain, a new war broke out in Europe. The world seemed to be falling apart, but I could only think about finishing theology and continuing my training. On the 1st of January 1941, I was ordained a priest. I gave my first Mass in my home parish. My desire was to continue my studies in Leuven, but somebody had other plans for me. Barely a month later, I got off the train at Mondragon station with my suitcase under my arm, all alone. I dreamed of traveling, and they sent me to be a curate in a parish just 50 kilometers from home. I soon found reasons not to complain. Reality showed me a depressed and conflicted people in need of bread, work, and above all, dignity. I could keep thinking about my shattered dreams, or I could get down to work. I decided to organize activities to try to restore the ties that war had broken. But I saw that it was not enough. Something more was needed, something new. It was then that I came into contact with the group of kids from the Unión Cerrajera school, from which the 5 future founders of the cooperative movement would come. The fact is that the cooperative movement was something that grew in my head and my legs over the next 10 years. These people needed a present but also a future, and the only way to achieve that was to convince them to join forces and cultivate it themselves. In 1951, the Mondragon Housing Association was developed to alleviate the serious housing problem we suffered. 4 years later, those 5 kids who were now qualified experts set up Ulgor. In the absence of bread, we created the San Jose Cooperative. We had to take advantage of the momentum if we wanted it to succeed. We needed funding and social coverage, and that was how Lagun, Aro and Caja Laboral were created. Later on, the graduate school would also join. On these 4 pillars, the Mondragon Group was created. From there, more people joined the initiative, and slowly but surely they took over. By example, they showed that cooperation worked, and more workers decided to join forces to be masters of their destiny. In 1967, my heart failed and I had to slow down. I was given a small motorbike to stop me using my bicycle, but the remedy was almost worse than the disease. I still had the strength to convince them that the future lay in technology and innovation, and Ikerlan was created. That same year, my mother, Tomasa, died, and I joined her just 3 years later. By then, Mondragon was already a reality. A business group of the first order, a driving force of its land, and a worldwide example of the cooperative movement, and I am happy to see it still is, 40 years later. The tree we planted already had a strong trunk and deep roots. If we did well, and it seems like we did, it will stand for many years to come. I suppose that in all this time, someone sometime will have wondered what I would have done in one situation or another. For me, the theories, doctrines, ideologies had the courage to be tools at the service of people. If I have left a legacy, it is not what I did, but how I helped to do it. So if you wonder what I would have done, think about the following. I was stubborn and optimistic. I always looked a little further ahead. I believed strongly in the value of education. I worked to transform my life and always trusted blindly in the power of people. But first and foremost, I believed in the value of cooperation, because union is the mighty lever that multiplies our strengths. Joint work to defend and maintain this project for at least another 100 years.